If the Maginot Line was so bad, why did the Germans have to go around it? Deep thoughts with the deep. This is a very important point. We're talking the line of concrete fortifications that was built by France to deter the no-no Germans in the 30s from attacking them. Obviously, the Germans would end up invading through Belgium and just going around the stronger part of that fortification. And everyone loves to meme the French about this, but at the end of the day, it did work. The Germans knew they couldn't get through it, so they had to go around. The French even knew that this was probably what they were going to end up choosing to do. They just weren't expecting the Germans to do it so fast. Was it also part of France's plan to be completely unprepared for when they did go around it? I think they were still thinking in the context of World War I technology at that time, which was the problem. 1st Marine Division requesting immediate airdrop of mortar shells using the code name Tootsie Rolls. Meanwhile, the actual Air Force giving them Tootsie Rolls. I do be liking them Tootsie Rolls. This was during the Korean War, and they did airdrop a pallet of Tootsie Roll candies. They weren't completely useless though, since Tootsie Rolls were great at plugging bullet holes. They have the nickname the Tootsie Roll Marines now. The year's August 1964. Don't worry, boys. Our enemies are just farmers. We have air support, and we're stronger than them. The year is March 1973. Oh, this is the only guy remaining. Another great time to remind everybody, air superiority doesn't win wars. It can help, of course, yeah. The Vietnam War is a perfect example. It doesn't do everything. I'm not saying we actually won in Vietnam, but there is a McDonald's in Ho Chi Minh City. Just throwing that out there. A cultural victory. It just took like 50 years. Not to mention, the US and Vietnam are actually pretty good friends right now. It's funny how often we become friends with someone we were just at war with. Japan, for example. Yes, we finally defeated the Ottomans and drove them from the Balkans. Yes, we did. It would be a shame if I did something completely stupid right now. Why, Bulgaria? Why? We're talking the First Balkan War or the prequel to World War I. Well, actually, we're talking the Second Balkan War, but the Bulgarians were dissatisfied with the share of spoils after the First Balkan War, attacking their former allies, Serbia and Greece. Clearly, there's still a grudge about this. It's actually kind of funny because even the Ottoman Empire joined the anti-Bulgaria side when all these countries had literally just been fighting them like a year earlier. Geez, not even a year earlier. They had just been fighting a month beforehand. When did Romania re-enter World War I? 10th of November, 1918. When was World War I end date? 11th of November, 1918. Meanwhile, in Romania, I declare war. No! It appears glorious and proud Romania is too strong. I surrender. Thank you, Romania, for finally ending World War I. We don't give them enough credit. Never forget Romanian superiority. And what's most hilarious about that is Romania ended up tripling in size in the treaty. Thank you for declaring that one day of war. We will reward you heavily. Barges in World War I makes almost zero contribution to the Entente war effort. Gets overrun and drops out of the war. Rejoins war for like one day. Cucks communist occupies 2/3 of Hungary. Refuses to elaborate and doesn't leave. Gotta respect that. When did Turkey enter World War II? The 23rd of February, 1945. When did Germany surrender? May 7th, 1945. Literally only like 2 months later. I declare war. No! It appears that glorious and proud Turkey is too strong. I surrender. So maybe this is just a Balkan thing. They have this power. Tankies be like, Russia did nothing wrong. Poland just doesn't like Russia because of US propaganda. My brother in Christ, we hated Russia before US even became a thing. This is not even an exaggerated meme. This is literally just factual. The US became a thing July 4th, 1776. Meanwhile, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had already been through one partition, eventually turning into literally nothingness very soon after that. The US not failing a single operation in Europe during World War II. Oh, we were so close. We were so close. The strategic bombing mission during the oil campaign to stop oil to the Axis ended up being one of the costliest to the Air Force. We lost 53 aircraft and 500 air crew. Funny enough, it was also in Romania. Maybe Romania is almost unstoppable. Anyone can deal with victory, only the mighty can bear defeat, says this mustache man. Meanwhile, he oofed himself. Maybe he should have practiced more what he preached. Definitely the perfect example of someone who could not bear defeat. Meanwhile, the German Wunderwaffe. We got a jet that didn't work, a tank that didn't work, a gun that didn't work, and a bomb that didn't work. Meanwhile, the Allied wonder weapons, just a portable sun. Yeah, nothing much to see here. We could just kind of move on. World War II super weapons people usually think of. Meanwhile, the real best World War II super weapon, it's actually just the American industrial complex. Yeah, pretty much. Like, oh no, you destroyed one of our military vehicles? We have 500 more coming tomorrow. Like, you literally cannot compete with that. Be a small people group from the far north, terrorize the whole of Europe with your fearsome warriors for centuries, repeatedly conquer and plunder countries 10 times your size, put down your weapons, and quickly become some of the richest and most peaceful countries in the world. This is how the Scandinavian places do it. We're talking Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. They terrorized everyone, including each other. They should invent a holy land that's not in the Middle East. Meanwhile, Well, this man, that's pretty much what his vibe was all about. We're talking Joseph Smith here, founder of Mormonism and the Church of Latter-day Saints. Aliens observing the Earth circa 1810. Why doesn't Kamehameha, the largest Earth monarch, simply not eat the others? That's a really good question. I've been asking that same thing. We're talking the Kingdom of Hawaii was reported in being at least 7 feet tall, which if that's true, and we're talking the year 1810, well, a lot of the world leaders at that time were not very tall at all. He probably could have actually eaten every single one of them if he wanted. US President at that time, James Madison, was only 5 feet and 4 inches. POV, it's the year 370 BC, and you just walked into Plato's Academy. All these philosophers right here, yeah, they're dirty bulking. Remember, philosophers back in the day used to be like bodybuilders. Apparently, the name Plato itself was a nickname meaning broad shoulders. Mexican Empire looks inside Austrian Emperor. That was a real weird crossover episode for a time there. Yeah, he was obviously not very popular at that time. But you know what? He's sometimes looked at fondly by today's standards. He was Austrian by birth, but he himself saw himself as a Mexican. Hello to you as well. Napoleonic France exists. Meanwhile, Britain, for some reason, I'll never forgive the Danish. Imagine being a Danish fleet just chilling and Britain bombards you without warning. They were worried Denmark was going to ally to Napoleon and have a really big navy. POV, you're an Iranian soldier in the Iraq-Iran war, and you're looking at the oldest soldier in your company, besides you also being a 15-year-old boy. Trade offer alert. I receive 500,000 casualties and accomplishing none of my objectives. You also receive the exact same thing. You can't just remake World War I with modern weapons. That's where you're wrong, kiddo. The Iranian army apparently employed extremely young soldiers at the time. It's one of those conflicts I have not dived too deeply into, but it looks like I need to. POV, you've been promoted to officer in the Vietnam War. I wanna live. I wanna live! Yeah, unpopular officers during the Vietnam War would sometimes get a frag grenade left in their sleeping bag or whatever. Just don't be a bad officer. Who would win, the shield or one curvy boy? Man, name a blade that had more drip than this. Definitely one of the cooler ones in history, even if it didn't necessarily work that well against the shields like intended. Alexander the Great may have had this syndrome, explaining why his body didn't decompose for 6 days after his death. That also means he might have been alive during his mummification process. Alright, well that's kind of a horrifying thought. At least he named like 17 different cities after himself. I'm just trying to look at the bright side of things, because this sounds like a horrible death. Today, lads, we'll be invading France. We will defeat them on the battlefield just like we always did. Glory awaits. Later. Please stop running away and come fight us. None, responds the French. We're talking the 100 Years' War, obviously. Yeah, sounds like it was a very bitter defeat. Oh, look, it's horses. You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me. Apparently, horses made it to this continent before humans brought them there. They obviously died out. And then, like I said, we brought them back over to give them a second chance. And man, did they thrive. And we definitely needed them too during the whole American frontier thing. Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, Francisco Franco, and finally, Oswald Mosley. Yes, the British fascist that was in the UK at the time. This is literally the only reason why I want to watch Peaky Blinders, to see his cameo. I still haven't seen it yet. I need to. Take the US Army, one SS soldier, former French Prime Minister, and generals. The Y mark even? Also one French tennis star. What the hell is this? Pointing to the defense of Castle Itter, which there's actually so many great YouTube videos discussing this topic. My personal favorite being from Mr. Spherical. So you're calling your uniform color field gray, despite it obviously being green. I'm not really the person to ask about this, but I guess it does look a little green. Not the greatest with colors. Maybe it just became that way with like time. Two unlikely friend groups, NATO and the Warsaw Pact, basically being held together by the threat of a Soviet invasion. Wait, even the Warsaw Pact? I mean, this was after all kind of their own version of NATO. Funny seeing all these countries on the same side now. Japan trying to keep their country closed. Ah, poo. Meanwhile, Matthew Perry, knock knock, open your borders. Stop having them be closed. I will never think about this historical event without thinking of that YouTube video, Bill Wirtz, still so popular. Big thanks to my patrons this month. Kansas was mentioned. KingBearHaze, JohnDenver, I can't sleep without Drew's voice. DaBeautiful-MEGAN-Underwood, Archaeology, aPhatNarwhal, Carmel S, Connor Pavlik, DOOCHBAGGINS, Fredrik Tibblin,
LuxembourgLover,
Traven, friend,
KirinoIsBestGirl,
I love you, the Mexican 760.